Hey everyone, welcome back to IT Horror Stories with Jack Smith. My name is, as always, Jack Smith, and if you remember episode 2, Crashing Helsinki Airport, there was a mention of getting stuck in a parking garage somewhere in Finland, and lo and behold, somebody from Finland reached out to us and said, "Oh, wait, I can explain that, and I have other stories about this lovely Nordic country." So, Alex, hello there.
Hello, everyone, and hello, Jack.
Hey, welcome. So let's jump into my parking garage because it seems that you are the expert on software development in Finland and why my license plate didn't work. So I'm very much listening to what you're going to say now.
The Finns being very precise and protective and private as well. So that's basically what happened there.
Okay, so why didn't my phone number work?
Because no one in the testing cycle and development cycle ever thought that an actual non-Finnish person would actually need to use this. All the test cases were written by and for Finnish phone numbers, and that's just the thing that usually happens.
Do you guys really hate Sweden so much that you don't even test for Swedish license plates?
That's a subject for another podcast.
No. We can go ahead on this one.
Well, we don't hate the Swedes per se, even though we do. But it's
special.
It's special. It's very special. And
Awesome.
it also boils down to the fact that the client who wants software and they order software and down the line they don't know what they're ordering, and the company who does the software doesn't know what they're delivering. So one hand doesn't know what the other one is doing, and stuff like this just happens.
Oh, what can go wrong?
And it's also many times when a company, let's say a parking garage company, wants to buy a mobile software to handle their parking stuffs, the software gets delivered and the payment gets made, and that's that. And then they notice a minor issue, like it's not accepting foreign phone numbers. Which is when the customer or the client needs to think that this is going to cost us like tens of thousands of euros. Is this really necessary? Sometimes it is, sometimes it isn't.
That's globally the same everywhere.
It is.
So you also reached out, Alex, so that, okay, I have something myself that from your coding experiences, backend developers. I am going to give you the microphone, dear sir.
All right. So yes, we are still on the subject of coding backends and mobile apps. And many years ago, I was hired to a consulting coding company as a backend developer, and they really wanted a Python guy, and I'm a Python guy. I love Python. They were anxious to hire me because I was a Python guy and I love Python, and they didn't have really. They had very few Python guys. So I got hired and they were happy about it. Yeah, now we got a Python guy. So obviously the first project I'm sold into is the furthest thing removed from Python as humanly possible. I was
Oh dear.
I was hired on a project to do a menu and pricing gateway for a multinational burger company. And it was a project that was already up and running, but the previous employee who had been working on that had to change companies, so I was put in as a replacement. And the gateway was developed on a very niche programming language and framework. Do you have any guesses, Jack, what the language might have been?
Well, it's not Python. So
No,
my furthest brain away from Python would be Z80 assembler.
it was not Z80 assembler, though I kind of wish it had been.
Oh dear.
Long story short, it's a language called Elixir, which is Erlang based, and it's a functional programming language, which means it doesn't operate as a normal, more conventional programming language works.
I have just learned 2 new words, Elixir and Erlang.
You're about to learn a couple of more, but let's talk about that later.
Yeah, so I just write down these are quite niche and could be called obscure.
Obscure is probably not the best word, because Erlang has been around for ages and ages.
Okay.
Elixir is a more fresh take on that, which works better on more modern solutions.
Mm-hmm.
But anyway, let's not dwell too deep
Yeah.
into that.
And then this language, it came from the customer that they were using this, or was this a choice that your employer took some time ago with the previous guy?
No, it's actually option C. The previous employee, the previous employee was given a choice that
Okay.
they could implement this software in any way they saw fit.
Mm-hmm.
And the previous employee probably was very bored in doing all the same stuff, all the basic stuff in all the same languages. So they opted to use something quite unique. And in that part, they succeeded quite well.
Well, I have news for you. That's called job security.
That is very true. But the employee was not working for the company that long, so security was okay.
You are stuck with Elixir and Erlang.
Yes, I'm stuck with those. The software that we were developing was a backend that the mobile apps and the click-to-order screens on the burger joints were using, so that the people on their phones and people at the restaurants could just click and order their burgers and fries and whatever.
Okay.
So it was very important piece of software, and it was its job was to get the menu data and the pricing data from an external source. So the mobile apps and the click-to-order screens and restaurants rely on this backend to get up-to-date menu data of all the products and burgers and fries, and also the price. And all of this data came from a relegated common global, or at least all of Europe got their data from one source, which is a company in Southeast Europe. And this is what the main office of the burger company had decided, that this is the one who compiles it and keeps it up to date. And everyone of that burger chain uses that as their single source of truth.
We choose not to have any subscription model nor sponsoring in order to keep our stories accessible for each and everyone. To support us, please check our merchandise at shop.ithorrorstories.eu or buy us a coffee at ko-fi.com/ithorrorstories.
So every single office of that burger company has to contact that machine to get all the pricing and other infos.
Yes. And every single burger place, a burger restaurant also contacts that single point.
Okay, so every customer, every burger place, everything.
Yes.
Okay. What could go wrong?
A couple of things.
Yes, that's why we're here. So
yes. So when I started working on that project, I was given a very small amount of documentation. I'm talking less than a piece of paper.
Okay.
An A4 piece of paper. But in essence, it said that this is the address, this is the authentication, normal boring stuff. And then it said that you can only fetch the data once a day. So then I immediately asked my manager, what is this? Because I'm used to working with APIs that I can get like maybe 60 times a minute is the limit usually. But then the reason was given that the Southeast European company, that their Windows server cannot handle any more traffic and database queries, which I found to be quite interesting.
I have some comments and thoughts about this, but that's a different episode if we ever find the people managing that system.
I also had some thoughts, some of which I made clear to my manager, but in essence, that was it. So those were the rules that we need to abide to, and I was fine with it. The main backend of these applications was they had a daily job that fetches the data, and all the applications and all the screens in the restaurants are happy, and birds are singing and angels are laughing and whatever. So what I did when I was developing new features and fixing old bugs is that I took the results from the backend and I cached them. So I saved them locally to my computer where I was making the.
So you could work on them. Yeah, makes sense.
Yeah. So I could just hammer the shit out of the file, which was XML, by the way. So
okay. So that's good news and bad news.
Yeah, it's not very human readable, but
It's there.
there was a lot of data. We're talking tens of thousands of rows.
Yeah, because every single minute item on those menu screens will have to be in there.
Yes. So there I was working on the project, and I tried to the best of my knowledge while working with this Elixir thing that I had never seen or even had nightmares about before that.
Mm-hmm.
So I was pretty damn sure that I'm using the local files instead of, hammering the API.
Yeah.
From abroad. And many days, possibly even a couple of weeks went by without a problem. And then one morning, come to the office, and I noticed that the backend fetch has failed to get the data, and because there's a problem with authentication, which to me was signaling exactly one thing. They have cut us off.
So you could no longer reach that server, or it was no longer replying to you. So you could not get your updates, if I'm correct.
The server was there and it was working fine, but when I tried to use our authentication to get the data, it was just saying 9.
Okay, so now we're talking about the German server. That's something completely different.
That was a poor choice of word, actually. So yeah, we were not getting the data. And because the backend server that talks to all the mobile applications and all the screens in the restaurants was not getting the data, which means all the mobile applications and all the screens were now dead. They were crashing. They didn't work. It was like, I believe it was like 8:30 in the morning. I come to the office, and before 9, I had noticed that we are in quite a lot of trouble. So we had, obviously, because we are working for the big burger client, we had no direct contact to the Southeast European company to ask them that, what the hell? So while my manager is desperately seeking people from the client company that we need to get a hold of this company because we're not getting anything, all the apps have crashed, this is a nightmare. So while that was happening, I did recall that I do have the saved payload from the day before. So I very quickly, I started up a very simple web server, which only function is to serve the data as if it would have been served from the official API, except that the address was obviously something quite different.
Yep.
So I got that working, and I chose a TLD that I had available that I knew that is gonna work for me. It's the easiest DNS. The TLD turned out to be, and now the name has been changed for everyone's security, but it was something like fuckup.com. So I got that thing working, and we made a really quick and dirty patch straight to production where we just changed the address of the external API to use my server instead. And then all the apps just started working straight off. It was beautiful.
Okay. So you basically did a man-in-the-middle attack there.
In so many words, yes.
yes.
But this was an approved man-in-the-middle attack.
Oh, yes. So it's a man-in-the-middle solution.
Yes. It was beautiful. And in all that stress and trouble and worry and sweat and tears and blood and whatever fluids you got, I actually did smile quite a bit when I realized that it is working and where the payload is now coming from.
And probably because you were no longer getting it from the other side of Europe, performance was also better.
Yes, my server could handle the traffic quite well.
Something tells me it was not a Windows server.
No. I believe at the time, it was a Ubuntu. I believe at the time it was.
Proper tool for the proper job, there's nothing wrong with that. And if I can summarize again, so basically all of Finland was then working on, say, yesterday's data.
Yes.
So if they launched a new burger, you wouldn't have it.
Yeah. Or if they launch a new burger or change the prices or launch a new campaign, that would not be there. But the client was okay with these changes because this was not normal. This was not a normal tool.
Okay.
Thankfully, there were no new burgers and no campaigns and price changes in the horizon. So we were solid on.
That's always a happy coincidence. And then I assume that your manager got on lots of phones to get the API access back.
Yes, he had like 7 hands, all of which were holding phones. We were making calls all over, and we finally got we got a hold of the company in the Southeast Europe, and they were being real bitchy and whiny. You're making too many requests. We can't have that. And then the client called them and said, now listen here, you little shit. You just give the access back right now, because without that, the entirety of Finland is not eating burgers.
Yeah, they might go back to the competition.
We'd have to go back to eating reindeer. No one wants that.
I have to. I don't want to criticize Finnish cuisine, but having had reindeer and bear, I was not impressed. So I can understand you want burgers.
Was it bear, or was it the bear beer?
No, it was sold to me as bear. Looking at the price, I hope it was bear.
So as far as you know, it was bear.
Yes, classic Finnish restaurant at Senatentori.
Then
It was not bear, wasn't it?
It was probably bear.
Okay.
It had at least it had been in the same forest as bears live.
That's just called Finland. So, bear. Good. So, you got your API back.
It took us several days. I can't remember the amount of days, but I'm going to say it took us like a week and a half. That's close enough to the truth.
Wow.
So during that time, all weekdays and weekends, every single burger and fry and Coke ordered through the application or the click screen things, they were facilitated by this fuckup.com.
Mm-hmm.
But yes, eventually we got the API access back, and I made damn sure I'm not going to make the same mistake twice. So
I was going to say, did you really, like in your dev kit, switch the flag from use live or use local to 1 to 0?
I made pretty fucking sure that that's never going to happen again.
Okay, yeah, I believe you.
So after that, it was smooth sailing, and work got done, burgers got sold, everyone was happy, and I was never blamed for this. Not by our company nor the client. I got praise for thinking quick and getting the things restored in a timely manner. And we actually did have time on our side, because it was like 9 a.m. we realized that, okay, the shit has really hit the fan.
Okay, yeah.
Things are down. But the burger restaurants opened up at 10 a.m. So before 10, we had the solution online. So
they
probably
really
not a lot of people noticed this. Maybe if someone was trying to kind of like pre-order earlier on, they would have had the application crash.
Yeah, then they will blame their phone anyway.
Yeah. Fucking iPhones, worthless.
I am on Team Android.
The client in Finland knew that the guys in Southeast Europe are really difficult, but there's literally nothing the company guys in Finland can do about it, because main office is calling all the shots. Yeah.
They got the contract from main office to basically host this information, and then it trickles down. It does, looking at the architecture in all of this, it is that basically every country had to independently develop their own little cache. And then you were doing the one in Finland. So somewhere, I think they knew that these guys in the south weren't really capable of doing this.
Yeah. And obviously the centralized API, it serves all of Europe, so it's specialized, and the data is specialized for each country, because not all countries use euros, and some countries have different menu items than others. And
exactly, I was going to say that a burger that's on the menu in Germany is not on the menu in France, it's not on the menu in Finland, or it has different things.
Yeah.
So, and then that the central one said, "Oh, you're from Finland. I give you the Finnish data, and then you process that locally, I guess."
Yes.
Okay.
Precisely.
This podcast features Jack Smith and guests. We say thank you to our demo scene friends who helped making this podcast possible. Commander Homer for editing, Danko for music and audio advice, NetPoet for additional voiceovers.
Sure, but then still comes the question that instead of just cutting you off, they say like, hey, we're seeing not one, but 700 API calls a day from you. Is something wrong?
Yes.
Yeah, there's like literally, sorry for continuing, but it's like, this drama could have been an email.
Yes, it could have. But later realized that because we had so much difficulty contacting them, they probably didn't even know we exist. They just have this account and authentication that these people in Finland can use this authentication and that's that, but they had no contact information who is actually using that. But they made no effort to contact the main office or even the Finnish office or anyone. They were just, we're just going to pull the plug and that's it. Call it a day.
That really sounds like a company with a server under a desk somewhere.
That's how I would imagine. And it's got to be some real old desktop, all dusty, and the guys are like smoking indoors, and it's real nasty, and they're just hoping and praying it doesn't fall apart.
My brain is now seeing a smoking compact Presario. Somewhere.
That's image I was not expecting to have during this podcast, but here we are.
It's fine. No, it's really, I think design-wise, it's really fascinating. Okay, so global, they spit out, basically one XML file a day for each country. But then even if you're like, if you prepare them in a nightly batch, then you can just have a static file that every web server can just send out. This was not really intelligent. because I think we both already worked out 5 different solutions than cutting everything off.
Yes. And we were not the only ones in Finland pulling that data, because every single restaurant has their point of sales, the cash machines. They also need that data. I don't know how that works out. I don't want to know.
Okay, so then you were only doing the screens and the phones, but not the cash registers.
No, they were handled by some other means. I have no idea how, and I'm happy to live without information.
How wonderful that you just add in an additional complication layer.
Yes.
Oh yes, because I guess then so one is marketing, one is sales, and then the mobile is something that was tagged on just because, oh no, people have mobile phones now.
Yeah. And this predates services like food delivery services like Wolt or Uber Eats and stuff like that. I have no idea how they've been able to unfuck that situation, but it's not my problem.
No. And then in the end, I guess you fixed it and you stayed there for a while.
Yeah, I fixed it, and I stayed on the project, worked on it for a while, but then the requirements were changed quite radically by our clients, and at which point I told my manager that we can no longer sustain this software as is, because I'm the only guy who knows how to work it. It's not a sustainable option. So in my free time, I had created a prototype to a software that would replace that, and I had done it on the Python, which I love and know.
Yeah.
And I presented this working prototype to the managers, and they just declined it. That no, we're not gonna make this silly mistake again of using some idiotic programming language. So they wanted to use.
We don't do Python. Like, we are a real programmer.
Yeah. Yes. Python is very obscure.
Never heard of it.
So I got declined the prototype, and they decided to use a completely different language and framework, albeit it is something that the company had a lot of experience and a lot of knowledge and a lot of peeps doing that. So I was like, okay, I felt a little deflated, but what can you do? But I also said right there and then that if I'm the guy who needs to do this on that language and that framework, which are also quite unknown to me at that time, I said that I'm going to resign right here, right now, because I don't want that pile of misery on my table again.
Yeah, then you're just saving yourself.
Yes, they opted to just give it to some other guys. I was on the project for like a 2 or 3 weeks to just hand out my knowledge of
Okay, yeah.
how the things work. And right after that, I was signed into an actual Python project. So I ran away laughing to do Python.
But at a different employer.
No, it was
Or
the same employer.
one.
Same one.
So on a different customer, same employer.
Yeah, same employer,
Okay.
different customer. So I went there, and Angel was singing, grass was green, even the beer tasted better, and everything was just better.
Must have been Estonian beer.
No, no, don't go there.
Oh, yeah.
Let's just say it was not Swedish beer.
Good. Well, no, not good, but yes, no.
So
Okay.
that's my little story of how to do backend and mobile developing in Finland a couple of years ago.
By having spare domains on hand that you can quickly have a man in the middle solution to keep the burgers going.
Yes.
Actually, on the burgers, I learned my biggest Scrabble score in Finland, which was tupla juusto ampurlainen, double cheeseburger.
Yes.
It's like, yes, I can speak Finnish. I can order a cheeseburger, a double cheeseburger.
You could have also gone with something like a double cheeseburger, like a tupla juusto kerros hampurilainen.
Oh, okay. I don't know what that is.
Kerros just means it has like 2 steaks.
Oh, it's like a double patty. I will.
Patty, yes.
I will try that out next time I am in the Nordics.
Yes.
Good. All right. So I think we can round off the episode here. Alex, thank you so much for joining and sharing the experience from up north.
Thank you for having me.
Oh, always a pleasure. As always, you can find us online at ithorrorstories.eu. You can send us an email, hello@ithorrorstories.eu. If you like this episode and these stories, then please give us a thumbs up or a heart and leave a nice comment. If you want to share something, do reach out to us. You can do this on our website. Everywhere else, you can find us where you always get your podcast. So that would be Spotify, YouTube, Apple Music, Deezer, and wherever you get your panic attacks. And if you want to support us, please check out our Ko-fi and our merchandise at shop.ithorrorstories.eu. Thank you for tuning in, and we will hear you the next time. Bye-bye.